Hey there, and welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out all the bullshit and talk about the ghouls in our backyard. Maybe applies to your backyard. I'm Spencer Fox Peterson, and I'm with my partner, as always, Joanna May Booty.
Hi, everybody.
We're here doing our usual thing. Last time you heard from us, you heard us interview each other pretty rudimentarily to also introduce ourselves. So we hope you enjoyed those episodes. They're kind of timeless in the sense you can always go back. So if you missed it, no big deal. But as always, please follow us on social media and follow us on your favorite podcast player and leave a rating and review if you have the time. That'd be excellent. Check us out on Patreon at the Weed Out, right, Joanna? Is that our handle on Patreon?
Yes, and also subscribe to our Substack so you'll know like when we send anything out.
Yeah, and we try to be we've posted a bunch of things on our Substack, from calls to action, activism.
For
sure. We're posting an op-ed. We'll get more into that later in the show. That has also been submitted to other publications locally, but we'll definitely get it out on our feed. So no matter what, it's out there for the record. It's regarding the First Amendment and public comment. Follow us on social media, interact with us, give us some feedback. We'd always love to hear from you. But today we're going to, now that business side is over, we're going to get into the last couple of Holyoke City Council meetings since the last time we spoke about the council on October 4th, 2022, where the ShotSpotter meeting and the public comment and how things kind of went off the rails. We're seeing a pattern of Joanna, maybe you could describe it better. We're seeing a pattern inside the Holyoke City Council chambers, and it doesn't feel good. So maybe, Joanna, I'd love you to color that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. It is a pattern, and I think it is not specific to Holyoke based on some responses one response even we've had from a local publication just saying like this is important. But basically the pattern is that there is tension and a back and forth between some of the councilors and some of the other councilors, most of the white older councilors, and some having issues with some of the people who are not white people or who have different backgrounds and who are younger. So I think there's definitely a problem there. And like we wrote in our op-ed, and the planning boards had sent a letter about this as well. It's not just amongst each other, which everyone definitely is able to witness, and we will share some clips, but it's also like the way that some of the councilors treat people speaking for public comment. So, and how they even react to public comment in general. So these are not isolated incidences. These are things that we see, I think, from certain members of the Holyoke City Council, again, like white older members of the council consistently. And we're not the only ones noticing and pointing it out. And I think it's worth continuing to talk about, because I think some of the councilors are at this point sitting in meetings, and I don't think it's the white older councilors, it's the ones who are taking and hearing these words that are often not kind. They're
said civilly, as we've talked.
Yes, they're said in a nice tone. And they think they're being civil, but the things that they're saying could be looked at as attacks of people's care, a lot of dog whistling type things. And these may not be intentional, but yeah, microaggressions for sure. And even if they're not intentional, like you can see that some of the people on the council are having a hard time being there sometimes. So, and then people coming to public comment are like nervous to make public comment. So I think the letter from the planning board, plus just watching every meeting lately, has really, it's warranted a second episode where we just talk about, okay, so we have this group of people calling for civility, and then basically, I don't know, it almost feels like intimidating other members of the council even into feeling like they have to defend themselves, or that there's consistently attacks. And again, we can share a clip of some of this. But I understand where those councilors are coming from, because even as a member of the public, I'm nervous to speak based on how some of the councilors might react. There's a lot of tension, and it seems like it's very difficult for them to all get along.
And I just want to also chime in here for people that don't know much about what's going on here. Joanna mentioned the age gap and the divide of possible, like, race, white and Puerto Rican, non-white and non-whites, lumped all in the same boat. And there's also a class divide here. So this is where we should all kind of should see some solidarity. And I think there are counselors that are also caught in the middle.
I do
Uh,
too. And there are some, like, there are some,
they're trying, and I like, these are people that have to deal with it every day or whatever during work. And so there's a toxic work environment is what I'm getting at.
that's what it feels like for them. Like for the ones that are feeling really hit by it, it feels toxic for sure.
And there's people sitting on the sideline, like, like Tessa, who's seems like a very nice person, but they're one person on the council and they're trying their best. From what I can see in the public, sphere, the recorded places where she kind of yelled at Kevin when he said that out of pocket stuff about Israel.
Oh yes, I would say, and that's why I said older white, not to be rude to anyone who like. But Tessa seems a little bit on the younger edge of things.
Let's not everybody's gonna be everybody's cup of tea.
For sure, we're not always all friends. For sure,
black and white shoe. It's very gray, but you can tell there's tension, and other departments or other people with
yeah, like it's bad in my opinion.
so
because if you
where we shared, I believe we shared this.
We did share the letter on our last the last time we spoke about this, the city council on our October 4th meeting. We can share it again. I mean, it's just, think about it, like a group of people who you work with within the city are coming to speak to you, and one member recuses themselves and decides to speak in public comment and is treated horribly enough for the chair of that board to send a letter to the entire council. So again, for me, I think the mayor should be like really involved in trying to get these members of each I mean, clearly there needs to be a training or a bunch of trainings on even just what civility means, because just because you say things in a nice, calm tone, it does not mean that it's okay. And I think the city council is one of those, and there are so many examples across America, different city councils, which is horrible. But to focus on this one specifically, I think is important because they're not learning from meeting to meeting. It just continues to be a toxic work environment. So again, who will all of these members who are feeling this way even want to come back? Is it kind of a way to keep people who, I don't know, aren't falling in line with the status quo out of the city council, because it's so hard to sit there with these other members? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's intentional. It just feels, I wouldn't want to sit there.
The powers that be, the established families, the business interests, whatever you want to call it, I don't think there's a big conspiracy. It's just human nature and hierarchy. This is why hierarchy is dangerous, because you get consolidations of power, and then they're for example, like, maybe this is a good segue. One of the issues they were talking about in the last two sessions is regarding the Ward 1 counselor who has been put under indictment.
Yes.
And they're trying to, and for a case within a minor, so very serious. But we're in the accusation phase.
Exactly. They have not faced their time. They haven't had their day in court yet.
And this person also hasn't been available to do their duties. So they're trying to figure out as a council what to do. So there's been a request, I believe it was by Linda Vacan, to see what legal can do, to consult legal to see what they can do as far as removing him, electing somebody else, like that's the way I'm understanding it.
Yeah, like all the options that they have, because it does leave them, like, they were without a counselor for 90 days, I think it was. And then I think, like, we can leave the clip where Linda explains herself too. Like, I do understand wanting to know what to do. I just think you can go right ahead with where you're going with this.
I feel reading the white supremacy dog whistles personally. And again, these things are so baked in to our society.
Exactly.
I want to remove the interpersonal, the personal level here. Like, I have my opinions about Councilor Bacon and Councilor Jordan, and I've made them very clear. But these things, they're not doing anything crazy. Like,
No,
we're very normalized. It's the frog in the pot of water, where you don't even realize like how violent or insinuating the line of questioning is. And when you see the double standards and how they're applied, it's like, oh, you're really in a rush with figuring out what to do with the brown guy who represents the next class, and he's the exception, to all the other great younger politicians coming up, counselors, right? It's all kind of a big chess game move to make it really uncomfortable to exist. And it's very aggressive, but they don't deal with officers getting DUIs out in the, and trying to use their status with the department to escape trouble. That can be fact checked. That's I believe Mass Live, the Gazette. Everybody reported on that about a year ago. We'll post that in the link because that's a salacious story, because it is. And like, but you just kind of see it all. So we'll play the clip and then we'll talk about it.
oh yeah, so this clip is from the October 18th meeting, and I'm going to play Juan Anderson Burgos, so that's Ward 6, right, Spencer?
Yeah, that's actually my word.
Yeah, so and it's Juan's reaction.
I've known Juan in a personal and personal in the sense that he's my counselor, like my neighbor, but like a professional sense, like we worked at a corporate bank together years ago. He worked at a different branch, but we bumped elbows. But that was about the extent of our relationship. Since most of our relationship, he's been my counselor. I happened to just move into the ward he already had a seat in. So, and I don't agree with Juan on everything, personally, but I think he's a good man. And I think, you'll see where he's very passionate in this clip. And I don't know what else to say.
Well,
Johnny,
this is a good reaction, I think, to like his reaction is to that questioning about like what they can do. And I think he may seem really passionate if you didn't know the context, but I think it's because of how the interactions between the groups go so often that it's hard for him to not feel the way he feels. So I'm going to just let him do the talking.
Councilor Anderson Burgos. Councilor Jordan made a very good point that it could seem that the counselor or that one of the counselors within this body felt either attacked, left out. So then in the timing of it all, and if we're reading these orders, it would look like some kind of retaliation. I'm angry, you didn't side with me, you didn't blah, 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 and then all of a sudden here, I'm gonna write this to get back at you. And the difference between, here's how I see it. I did my things in the past, by the way, over 21 years ago. I did my time. I've corrected all my wrongs. I pay my taxes. I put myself through college. I busted my back to make things right. So the difference here, it says it. Does this apply to convictions of incumbents prior to taking office? That is directed at people such as myself and my fellow colleague here, Councilor Rivera. These are malicious. These are a waste of this body's time. We have so much to do in this city. And if we keep doing this to ourselves, actually, no, I'm not going to say we, because I'm not part of this, right? I don't file orders like this to take little jabs and stabs at people in this body. I don't do that. I try to work with you. And again, whether I agree or disagree with you, I work with you. I would never do this. This is a new level. This is like Game of Thrones kind of stuff here. This is not right. And the reason why I didn't say it earlier Because as I'm reading, I'm like, it was a smack against my face. So if that answers your question, that's why I didn't mention it earlier. But whether I mentioned it earlier or now, I'm mentioning it because it needs to be addressed. I was born and raised in this city. I will fight for this city to the end. I will make sure I point out the wrong, and I'll keep doing it to my very last breath. This needs to stop. And I hope that every person that goes out there and vote, like are listening tonight, share this. Please share this with everybody in Holyoke. What is our city councilors talking about? What are they doing? Oh, are they lowering or raising our taxes? Are they keeping our streets safe? Are they making sure that the departments are fully staffed, that they're taken care of? Our Holyoke Police Department, are they staffed? Are they taken care of? Our fire departments, are they staffed? Are they taken care of? No, we're fighting orders to take a little jab at each other, to remind us of our mistakes, to kick us while we're down. That's what these are for, clear and day. So stop making it what it's not. That's what it is. It's intended and malicious. Intended and malicious. Retaliation. That's it. Thank you.
So my quick reaction, I guess, is that's some powerful stuff. You don't really see this kind of thing in small community government. But Juan is not, he's a passionate person, but I genuinely, looking at his track record and being at the meetings in the past, he's not this aggressive. He's definitely a center person, you know, he's a fulcrum of the room. Like, he wants everybody to get along.
Well, and he said that. He was like, I would hope you'd share this with your friends or the city, because he's really wanting you to get work done. He wants to work with people. I am not even a resident of Holyoke, but you and I work together on things there, and he's met even with both of us. He's someone I feel like I could reach out to. He's super upbeat on social media and friends with everyone if he's like, if you find him there. So like, he's just a really easy to get along with individual overall. Even if I think even if he had a conflict, he would be easy to get along with. And I think he said that, and he has every right to be mad if someone on the council, which I think it is Councilor Bacon and maybe Councilor Jourdain, is kind of also giving that it sounds like some support. But I think that because in the past, Councilor Jourdain has thrown in Israel Rivera's face, being formally
covered that in the episode 4.
Yeah, so because he's thrown stuff like that in someone else's face, like, this is why Juan's reacting that way. Like, it's a way to attack them. And like he said, like, they've paid their time, they've done their time, they've paid their dues. Like, what in the hell are you trying to basically do here? Like, there are people who are paying taxes and voting members of society, and there are things like Juan said, this is foolish. It's foolish. It's retaliatory behavior. And instead of putting orders through that actually help the community, they're putting through orders to kind of like continue infighting. So this just proves like even getting a letter from an outside group doesn't help. So I don't know, other than having their mayor get involved and again try to have like some explanations as to why people are allowed to treat others like that. I mean, some of this just seems, I can see why he's so frustrated. Like, these counselors sometimes meet for 2 hours or longer. Like, he doesn't need to be sitting there getting these types of I understand why they would wonder what to do if someone were currently incarcerated, and Juan understands that too, but in case anyone missed from the clip, like, they're specifically asking like what to do about people who sit on council who have in the past been incarcerated. And that's why he is so upset. And I understand completely.
And this is the vicious cycle. This is how it all ties back to this, how this is inherently an abolitionist interest. And anybody that wants to do harm reduction, whether you're an abolitionist or not, we're hoping to convince you that, see, even if you do your time, you do your thing,
Right.
rehabilitate, quote unquote, and you dig yourself up again, and you respond positively to this you're such an exception to the rule. So like, this is why we need to abolish these systems, because we're also getting rid of people that can organize, that can lead, that can understand the needs of their community, and they're this is just me being like, kind of, I guess maybe a little out there, but like, when somebody resorts to selling drugs or doing something that would get you put in jail, for the most part, the majority of things, they're not doing it for funsies. They're doing it to live. Like,
It's like purely survival based.
so
typically.
I see, this is my cynical view. I see somebody that can like build a business, and I'm like, you can build a black market business and survive for a while, even with big daddy government, like spending a lot of money to end that business. So it's like, that's something that should be acknowledged. I don't know how to say it, because people take morality to being thrown into jail, and then again, it's like, now they're somehow, the last 20 years in between Juan's stuff, and it's kind of just messy. I don't know, it's just messy, and it
So
does
I personally believe there should be at least one person on the council of every council that has at least been inside of a prison and to some capacity other than a CO or a warden, but in either a lower worker position like an administrator or social worker, or actually as an inmate. But that's because of my exposure on the ethics boards that I work on, where we always have a prison advocate, especially like because of, if anyone wants to do any research on people who are incarcerated, even if it's probation, like those people have no will necessarily. So we try to make it so that the coercion levels to get someone involved in research are much lower. So I could see, like, I mean, having people with that background it's actually very helpful. And like you said, Spencer, oftentimes they have wonderful skill sets. I'm gonna back that up too. Like, and oftentimes it's they're all neighbors and members of our community too. Like I've shared in other episodes, I have at least 2 family members, maybe more, that have been incarcerated, and one that will maybe be incarcerated in the soon future. And I hope that prisons are abolished for everyone. So like, for me, like, I just see these people as members of our community that should be there, especially if, quote unquote, like you said, like they've served their time, they've paid their dues, which is usually what everyone's happy about. At least I do know in this meeting, when Linda Vacant does speak, she does kind of try to say that, but then, and I'm not going to play the clip because people can go listen to it, but she basically, I'm going to summarize it. Like, the point that sticks out to me, like, I agree with her mostly. Like, what she's saying is what any reasonable person would say, except there's one line where she says, like, yes, you have all, like, paid your dues and done your time, and you're good contributing members of the community, and that's fine. And in my opinion, like, who is she, a judge and jury for everyone being a good member of a community? Like, shut up. Like, even if they got out and were a homeless, unhoused individual, they still are fine people. So I just feel like there's still that hidden, and I guess this is your specialty, Spencer. I guess I feel like it's like a microaggression, small dog whistle to me, where like at first I liked everything she was saying, and then I was like, wait a minute. Like, when you come out of those situations and those institutions, it's so hard. Like you said, these people are exceptions, like Izzy, Juan, these are exceptions to what can happen after you're incarcerated. So I just feel like saying, like, and this is fine if you two are like this. It's just really like, I don't like it at all. It just doesn't sit well with me.
it's akin to hidden law.
I don't like it.
Like, like, if you can, it's the odds of you overcoming. Anyways, I'm gonna give the audience full warning on that. Back after this clip, I'm gonna come in hot, because like Joanna said, like,
well, should we even play it though? Because I don't know if we need to. They can go listen on their own. Like, I just feel like, or I guess I should play it, huh?
Play it, because then
Okay.
I'll come in and I'll just be politely a dick. And this isn't about Linda, or I mean, Counselor Bacon, excuse me. I don't want to disrespect.
No, it's about how it's said. So like for me, it's like
It sucks because it's so insidious. It's like in your head, you're like, nailed it.
well, yeah, and I'm just like, oh, okay, like she's trying, and then I'm like, no, you're not trying here, because just I don't think she understands what she's saying, but I'm gonna play it. I hope I have it queued up where it is.
I wish I'd heard a tenth of that passion in defense of due process for each and every American, as each one of us is sitting in this room when we had 2 police officers in the chambers to keep a duly elected counselor from entering the chambers based on actions not endorsed, not even known by this council. That is, none of us knew. That is my whole point. That is why we were supposed to address this in executive session. But we did not do that as we were told we would do tonight. Now, there is a distinction with absolutely no difference in my mind that we're going to talk about it on November 1st, but we couldn't talk about it on October 18th. Hence the orders, hence me signing on to it. Don't talk to me about how unfairly somebody is being treated when somebody who's accused, not even had a trial, doesn't meet the bare minimum of our legal due process. This is what's called modern day lynching without the rope.
Stop.
No.
The counselor has the floor. The counselor.
No. Listen to everybody respectfully. I have not interrupted a person. I've not made a face. I have not otherwise objected. But I do object when counselors, in certain cases on their very own, bring up at meetings their record. I have never personally brought up at any meeting anybody's record. But what I do want clear is from our legal department, who took an action based on their interpretation of our charter, which was found not to be correct. I want the rest of the questions answered so that we will be solid and standing on solid ground going forward. And we won't have to worry one way or the other. We will have the question answered. The question, as a theoretical, could potentially happen to anybody sitting in this chambers. If something happens and the person is convicted of something. So I think we need to understand if that happens, then what happens next? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something. It's a reasonable question. And the compassion for people who have done things wrong, paid their price, and redeem themselves and participate in a constructive way in society is fine. So is asking a question about what the repercussions will be based on the actions that just happened. These are reasonable questions. You don't like the timing? I get it. But if the interpretation of what vacating a seat meant had been provided to us prior to the action being taken, maybe people on this council would have been able to bring the questions to light, and maybe the whole entire thing would have been avoided. But we did not get the advice of counsel. I heard nobody in this chamber object when Councilor Givner filed the order seeking the resignation of a counselor because he had been absent. That was sent to legal for the legal opinion. Our president was quoted in the paper that legal would be giving us an opinion. The next thing we knew was the action had been taken without advantage or advice from legal to this council. That is why I signed on to the orders. I'm not out to get anybody. The counselor that always talks about being a felon brings it up at every single meeting. I don't bring it up. The counselor brings it up himself. So, you know, that's not the issue. The issue is, what does our charter say and what does it mean? Thank you.
So there's that.
Wow, we wow.
Right?
Aura,
Very
very
exciting.
Very exciting. So There was a billion.
There's so much there. So
Myself,
much there.
the local. Listen, my mom's. I'm my mother. For all bless her soul, bless her heart. Is we got rough. It's rough between the two of us and the squad as a whole, but like not a bad person for the world. And her name's Karen, right? And it's kind of
I love
unfortunate.
that
My
for
mom
her
is
and for you.
difficult, but not in the way that Karens are difficult. And honestly, like,
So this is a Karen.
no, and it's kind of like funny. It's like my mom is kind of, she's a boomer. So, I would call her a boomer, not a Karen. It just happens to be her name's Karen. Anyway,
well, right.
sorry for the internet lingo, everybody, if you're not terminally off.
But doesn't this seem more like a not your mom moment, but more of a Karen
I want to
moment,
petition the
actually?
crowd that maybe we change the name to Linda. Specifically, we just make it a subsect of Karen. How
That's
about
fair.
this? Subsect of Karen, where it's like the PP, the
Extra bad.
counselor, the senator, Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee.
Fair. I like this. We can do like a poll.
So anyways, just throwing that out there. But I also
So what do you think about her
I'm
statements
spawned
though?
from a literal Karen. So I feel like when you're so close to that heartbeat for 9 months, I'm a white guy, so it's all good, as far as when I act like a Karen. Well, I try.
Don't be a Karen. You're not really ever a
People
Karen.
can
You're
act
so
like
nice.
me, kind of get away with being Karens a little bit. But
Yeah, you could, but you're like two people that you should be nice to. Which I think are like workers and other solidarity to everyone. You are always one of the nicest. Just
well,
so you know.
when you've worked shit jobs, you get it. Like,
I know, I get it too.
hey,
I'm always
thank
you for all
really
but
helpful.
you're
You're kind of
very
like, I want you to like, I don't want to be in your way at all. Just do your job.
right. I don't want to be a bother is how I always feel. So you're kind of like that too. But what do you think about her statements? Like I was totally like right to be kind of like put off, right? Like,
Well,
ooh,
kind of
my
like
God.
true, but she told on herself a bunch of times. So
Because some of it seems like reasonable, but then she's like being a
the
not
fact that
nice.
she didn't really deny that it was she actually admitted that it was poorly timed.
Was she also defending?
Like,
I can't tell if this is what was happening.
Okay, what? So what?
Well, yeah, okay, because she's civility
right now,
politics.
so wait,
with
exactly,
that.
it's the civility politics. So right now, what you're doing is telling us your disgust by saying I didn't even make a face. Like just
right,
because it happened
right.
5
But
minutes
I could
ago,
sit there
and now you
listen.
admit it. That's kind of the point. It's gaslighting. It's like you seemed 4 minutes ago, and now you're like, and I should have been a dick to you. And it's like, so she's telling on herself that I'm white man whispering right now, and she's telling on herself, and it's unfortunate because she's putting, she had a valid question, but she even said like, we didn't get to it in executive session. And it's like, she kind of knows she weaponizes transparency rules. And she's could have been quiet about it. And it's like, are you openly using the microphone to say like, you guys keep some shit hush hush behind executive session?
So good point to let everyone know if you're not familiar with like town meetings, like thank you for bringing that up, Spencer. There are these, and they do it for like school committee, all the different meetings where most things are put before the public and you can comment on. There are special instances, and I don't even know how exactly, so I'll have to look it up and maybe share with everyone on our website, but there are some like executive sessions where you can pretty much discuss stuff secretly and decide on things that way. So the public has no input and it's not on the record.
Out it's too late because of whispering.
It's usually like it's usually like a half hour before an actual scheduled meeting. So when I was on school committee, I had gone to some, and it was about stuff that was usually spicy.
People can't keep.
It was about stuff, like complaints or things that we'd need to handle, and we would talk about it amongst ourselves to figure out, so it was kind of like, it could be spicy stuff sometimes.
But weaponizing, she's acknowledging that's part of the game, first of all.
Oh,
you didn't play ball totally.
She's saying so much too. Like, she's like, you paid, like I said, she's saying like you're contributing members of society, or however she puts it, as if there's a certain way you have to be eventually.
Yeah, she decides what's she literally even, what did she say? What is deemed suitable for society, or you know,
Something like
something
that.
along
It was
those
like,
lines. And it's like, oh, there it is.
well, and then she kept saying like, I
An
don't bring up
imaginary scale that
when
has
she's
no way of computing. What does that mean? Because to me, anybody that goes to jail doesn't rat out another person in their working class circle. That's honorable.
she's just also saying like, oh yeah, it is honorable.
She would
But
be
she's
like,
also
oh,
like,
he went to jail and he did it
I
all alone. He's a mastermind. He needs to. That's how this logic works. It's like this circular, like, anyways. Yeah.
But she also says like, oh, like I don't bring it
I
up.
don't bring
You,
up that
there's one
you're
of
a
you that just like
felon.
talk. Well, no, you just like to talk about it at every meeting.
Or
Like,
that-
okay,
uh,
but that's not true too. I've
Or
heard
that
them bring it up.
everybody knows that off the record, walking around your neighborhood, you're likely talking about it because people are bringing it up, and because they probably don't like the way. It doesn't matter. It's civility politics. It's trash.
Super hard the way that she's like, I can just sit there and listen to all of you. So you should.
She
just let
takes
me
a
talk.
valid stance of asking legal the question, and
I know, I do agree that like I understand like legal should have explained to them what to do because he was missing for like 90 days. Was I not understanding? Does she seem to think that he is being attacked? What was that like modern day lynching thing? What
she
she
was
talking
being
about?
like, "Oh, you guys are acting like this is a modern day lynching." He's
Oh, okay. I'm like, what does
wrong,
she mean?
and we need to know what we're supposed to do. And you're kind of, I guess that's like not knowing what to do. I guess that's a fair thing, but like you're telling on.
Yeah, and I'd want to ask legal,
That's
I guess. Like legal should have told them what to do.
pro tip for politicians and people in general, like don't ever compare anything to the Holocaust or lynchings. Like no.
But yeah, that's why I didn't understand. I honestly really, I'm only asking because I did not understand what she meant or who she was even like.
Us
It
trying to
doesn't
make
make
a
sense.
colorful point and try to really put the hammer on it. Just don't use it. Like it's
I would never say that because I don't
nothing is the same
understand.
as that shit. And just it's so there's such heinous, vile connotations that go along with it. Like, please.
I know. I just feel like you said that in public out loud
When
into a
Mr.
microphone
Rogers-
that's recorded. So these are the things, but these are the things that why we're sharing it. Like Juan did say in his comment, please share with your community, like community of Western Mass. We are sharing this with you. And honestly, I welcome at this point, I just want to throw out there. If you're
happening everywhere.
No, I know, but I'm just thinking locally. If you're listening locally and you had a meeting where you think we should check it out and maybe talk about it, please email us, message us on social media. Let us know because it's not just happening here in Holyoke.
And there's a couple of things.
It's clearly happening everywhere. There's more stuff for sure. I'm just throwing that out there as a call to
that was
let us
reported by
know.
the Gazette in the last week about Owen.
Oh yeah, we have to watch that meeting. Well, we should watch like the next meeting to see how it goes.
But but long and skinny, I want everybody to go ahead and the Gazette, the Hampshire Gazette of all papers, actually reported on it. Basically, there's been some issues. Again, intercouncil people are having grinding sessions.
Yeah, apparently like hardcore in that
And like,
article,
let's give
it
everybody
seems.
the benefit of the doubt, all parties. But right now, Owen
Totally, I'm saying it's out there. We'll share it. It's in the
being
Gazette.
accused and cut off like a bully gets cut off. Another counselor asked him to stop calling him and texting him and emailing him. I mean, and anything but on official channels, which all of our government should be doing that anyways. Nobody should be doing anything not an official channel. That's all.
It could be like a rule too. Like it could be literally a rule depending on your town.
Even
or
just
community.
ethically.
Well, if someone asks you like a boundary,
Yeah, and then
like,
he set a boundary, and this is the best way to work with me. Yada yada yada. Actually,
right
not
on
a big
this,
ask.
exactly.
It's like actually a streamlined. Yeah,
No.
one space. That's where you want me. You want me to write you a mail and send it by pigeon? Okay, that's weird.
Well, and it's like if you have a lot of stuff like in one for that job, again, it's a lot of work for a little pay. And if someone's asking you to please just keep it all in email so they can stay organized, like just email them. Like, why would you want to like?
I don't want to
I
draw
get it.
versions, but there's conflict in East Hampton, and two other former counselors, reputable members of the community, they kind of co-signed that they heard. That's what the Gazette was reporting on. They say they approached the
Yeah,
Gazette,
so
like,
it's
"Hey,
out there
man,
already."
like this is, you know, this is a pattern. And I guess, you know, the reality is like this is happening in everybody's government, and that's
Absolutely. Just at different levels, at different
grinding.
times, but
people
it's
gonna
happening.
grind, but it can't be under the radar because this is how bad things happen as far as with your dollars. It's how things get mismanaged. It's how people get promotions they don't deserve. Yada 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 yada. All the trickle down effect, and it's our money. It's our business, quite literally. I mean, you know, so. But we could refer, you know, we could stay on Linda Bacon and just talk about how she even, you know, when I said like she does some dog whistles here, you know, in a previous meeting, she threw in a late order to question about cameras around ballot box in which is like,
Oh, yeah, I think I have that clip too. It does, again,
not a
this is one of
problem.
those things, she sounds reasonable. She
It's a
sounds
question I
reasonable.
would ask personally, like, yeah, let's secure something so that way, no matter what, let's give our clerk's office all the tools they need to like ensure to the public, both visibly, like, yeah, there has to be a visible perspective that they're on it. Like, so a camera,
Well, I would want them to keep everything
I mean,
safe,
like a secure
obviously,
box, like that's very clearly like a one of a kind. Where,
but every town like has
yes,
that
that's
basically.
good.
Well,
But the
that
way
I
she's
see.
asking it right before the election, and then she makes
Oh yeah, super Trumpy.
she makes a referral to like people have been saying.
I know the
dropped
people
in,
have
and it's
been.
like there's ways to verify shit. And if things look sus, like like it's actually more secure statistically to do the mail-in ballot or a drop.
It makes sense, actually.
And you can put a camera on it.
I always
And
vote
on a
in
government
person
piece of
still,
property.
old
So it's
school.
like pretty cut and dry as far as, you know, legality goes. Like putting a camera there is not a problem.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a weird, it was just a weird ask. But that's the
Ma-
thing, she's
she
one of
made
those people.
the you know the cousin to the silent majority that Kevin Jourdain liked to reference in a previous meeting. Oh, so actually it's a nice segue.
yeah.
So Kevin Jourdain in the ShotSpotter meeting from 10-4, episode 4 of ours from October 4th, he made some reference to, in the whole conversation about suppressing emails submissions and making sure we follow the rules on 10 speakers at a minute and a half, while trying to be the parliamentarian, but he's not the parliamentarian. He mentions that like email doesn't count, but he also referred to all the correspondence he gets, and he's diligent about responding to his correspondence. These are his words. And you know, that kind of cued our interest. Joanna and I, we're kind of like, huh, interesting question. And, you know,
I thought it
we
was.
like to be kind of fair too, because, you know, we could be those really annoying record pullers that are just pulling every record for fun. We just like follow the breadcrumbs that people leave for us. And, you know, so Joanna's making a cute face if you're not on, like she's up to no good, like an old timey bad guy, kind of Dr. Evil, I guess. But
so not super old timey.
Yeah, I mean, so he makes some reference about his Jourdain makes some reference about all the correspondence he gets. And so we're like, you know, Joanna and I were joking. Occam's razor is like, he's just reading Facebook comments. And most of those people aren't even probably from here, or they're bots, or they're just dummies that don't know anything, or just racists. Like, but we were kind of like, well, you know, maybe there's people emailing him and there's multiple gun deaths. Like, I'm sure people write in a panic, right? Like, so we decide to do a records request and get his emails, which you can do. It's our paper trail. This is why we say everything should be done in email, because this is all our business, right? We should be able to audit these people at a moment's notice by keyword. And you can when it comes to emails. So we asked, can we get a records request for the last, I don't know, was it 3 or 6 months, regarding gun violence.
Oh, I don't think it was that long, not to jump in, but it was like within the week of that meeting, I think, because he was kind of saying people were supporting
right. Okay. So we get it back, and the only one for it was from the Fraternal Order of Police. Like, well, the
Yeah,
one that
there was,
this
and then there was
guy.
one that was also
No, there was
kind of,
one that was
yeah, there was
wishy-washy.
maybe
They were like-
two, but one was like really
They were just kind of like,
vague.
do anything that will stop gun violence, please. It wasn't even
And they were like, thank you.
Like
They were just kind of like,
want to see it. So like
yeah.
we had one person, and then there's like 7 to 10 more emails. 3 of them were mine.
Yeah, that were like, no, thank
Yeah,
you.
and you know there were
basically.
other people too, and it's all public records. If you want, you can go get it. But you know, I think we shared a lot of this on our Substack too, because we're nerd.
Well, like Owen, yeah, Owen's letter was one of them, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, we shared all.
So yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
but it was definitely just like, okay, so that silent majority thing, like stop first of all, you don't want to receive people's emails who are actually reaching out to you with problems, but you're going to reference people who email you in private. And there's a lot of them, so that should matter. But the people who are actually showing up or wanting their emails read onto the public comment shouldn't matter. Okay. And then I'm not following again. And then I have to be like, Spencer, why don't I understand
It's not good.
what's happening?
And you know the worst is one person says bullshit, and then the whole thing devolves. And you know, that was a month ago, so like, maybe I should move past it. But it just like all this stuff is just wow.
Well, that's what I mean. And I do understand what's happening, but I'm like, it makes me want to play dumb because first of all, it's ridiculous that they're using the civility politics, the way they're using them, like being able to say like, well, I sat there silently while you told me you had feelings and felt triggered, but right. But now I will flip out on you, Karen style, or Linda style. And then I don't know, just kind of the jabs that are like microaggressions and the dog whistles of just saying like, well, there are so many other people that think this way, but then you don't want to hear from the public, but you will use the arguments of those people when it suits you during an argument. So I just feel like it's so backwards. And I am really, really thankful for Juan and Israel and Jose and even Tessa and Cocaine and so many other city councilors that I do not know all of them in Holyoke and just in every town who is trying to sit there and be there to get work done because it's a really hard, thankless job. But to these other people who are just making things harder, I don't know. I think we do need to share it and show, like Juan said, like, why is this acceptable and why does this person keep getting voted in? Or people like this.
And you know, hopefully down the line we'll have a couple of these people give us 30 minutes of their time to come in and talk about their platform and how they organize, you know, whether it's Izzy or Juan or whoever, you know, we're gonna reach out to all of them, I guess, eventually.
Well, yeah, and we've talked to them in the past. That would be nice.
How would you
for
feel if
sure.
Jordan declared he needed an audience because of all the shit talking I've been doing?
I mean, they can declare whatever
Joanna and I will play good cop, bad cop, or like in the Sunny, Hugh Honey and Vic Vinegar.
Yeah, I do declare though. I mean, they're not like in any position to declare our time from us, but it's
Nobody's
funny
paying
that.
attention. Well, not that.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
If they made it this far into the episode, that's maybe they're an abolitionist now.
Yeah, maybe. And they're like, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, unlikely. You know, but the weaponization of people's records, all of it, it's I know I'm laughing and chuckling. It's just it's a trauma response for me. I just don't at some point, you know, because it's like I also don't want to make, you know, I don't want to bust in there because like, you know, my instinct is if this was, you know, the recess, you know, playground gym, I would put my nose in there and say, what are we fucking doing here? You know, I would try to break it up. But like that, but
Juan's even saying it. That's the problem in general. Like the counselors need to figure it out, or the mayor needs to hold some sort of like mediation because they kind of do need to be able to work together. And sometimes like they fight, like even that fight in the October 4th meeting, which I know we're referencing a lot, but still it was just amazing. Like in terms of what they'll do. And it's like they just spoke for so long, but we're so worried about the public having any say. And then just like railroaded everyone for like a really long time about stuff that was super
And let's offer some
not important.
Let's keep documenting it, because
That's how I feel, and keep sharing it with others how they're acting, because it's
change
not
can
acceptable
happen on the local
to treat-
level a lot faster than it can as long as you just get coalitions together. And basically what we saw in those comments and the gist of the whole thing, it's the people with more against the people with less, and then dividing us on red lines and segregation and racism. And that's just the truth. I mean, and it's so baked into our society. It's not this, like, they don't have like a clan meeting. It's just the grooves on the record, I'm just going around and around and around.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I don't want to push anyone out. And that's why, like, I feel like the recordings speak for itself. Like, yes, some of the questions are reasonable, but some of the stuff that you're saying is also
It's coded,
not okay.
It's dog whistles.
Yeah.
And I'm tempted, on a microphone to say like, hey, turn the other cheek. But it's like, no, this needs to be called out. This is wild, inappropriate. So if they are listening, it's just remember, we're trying to do something about it. And if that means shaming, shame.
I know.
I mean, it's not violent. It's just, it's like,
Excuse me.
replay your words.
Well, because I also don't want to take up a minute and a half every week from public commenters who want to speak, because there are some going every week to talk about really important issues. I don't want to have to get on there and be like, can you please treat each other in a manner that's conducive to getting work done, and not treat some of the members or people of the public with complete disdain, and then explain things to them as if I'm teaching a course on equity, values, and inclusion. And that's what I really keep saying. Like, I feel like some of them need to sit through some trainings, like her civility politics thing. Like, okay, just because you say it in a kind of nice way doesn't make it all right. And just like personal reflection, even, like, I don't think that's happening for some of them. And I do understand why Juanes and Burgos and others are very frustrated at this point. And also, like I said, I don't want to go take up time to explain to people how to get along with each other and make other people feel safe in the community to talk, because they should feel that way. As a person voted in as a civil servant, you should
have that.
You should want to hear from people.
That
You
should be the
able to
skill
do
we're
that.
voting for. If you're, if we're going to keep trying this broken and try
Yes.
to incrementally work. And incrementalism, I don't buy into it, but it's easy to obstruct, I guess, is the lesson. It's easy to obstruct and to throw temper tantrums, and that's what we're seeing. And that's what authoritarian types like to do. They don't like to do things, they like to obstruct and
right. It's like taking time away from real
right
issues.
and use the levers as a weapon. So using the asking, okay, can we, what is the status of the cameras? It's like, we have cameras, there's already we're like, well, I'm just asking questions. Is it up to date? I don't want to be held accountable. And then, next year where our elections are coming up, and I want to make sure they're secure. It's like, that's the Trump dog whistle stuff. It has no place here. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. It's the cousin of election denial, which undermines the whole thing and unravels everything, because then nothing is truth anymore. And I'm sorry, people can't keep secrets.
No, not very well.
Forever. Like,
I keep
yeah, but
some.
like giant systems of such repression. There's suppression. There's
You're so
voted
right.
like just whole prison industrial complex is to disenfranchise people. So it's not to say that there isn't other ways of diluting the vote or taking the vote away. But I mean, these people just outright aren't hiding it. Like, well, you don't belong here because you don't, follow our, you didn't do it the right way.
Well, yeah, so that's like something that did stand out to me, because it's like, okay, well, now she's gonna have a list in her head of like what's the appropriate way to come out of like incarceration and how you'd act in society, and that's a big one. Like, you are not the judge and jury of everyone else's existence and life, and like we have such a punitive, disgusting view on how people should act and how people should be. And it's just it's so baked in, like you said, it's just programmed in.
And
it's
how government should be approached. That's how big. That's how our culture, our white supremacy, American, Western, whatever you want to call it. It's about who can be the bigger bully. And, don't kid yourselves, people. Like, the Nazis took a lot of ideas from the Jim Crow laws. That was the model for the Nuremberg laws. And it's just, we have it so baked in, it takes care of itself. And it all goes tied back. So, like, please do, if you have any like curiosities about the larger concepts here at play and how it plays into Linda Vakin. I mean, this conflict, this bully mentality is how it maintains itself. And in her head, she thinks she's like the defender of democracy by being a jerk.
Well, and she might not think she's being a jerk. Like, and some of her questions are reasonable. Like, she just maybe, like, I'm not trying even to defend her, because I'm trying to just understand some of the people and our neighbors and counselors and how they act. Like, I believe she probably is trying to be civil in her own way, and she is trying to give people their time and listen to them. But the stuff she's saying, even if she's not aware of it, is not all right. And like, even if that stuff's baked in because you're older, like, there's a point where it's not okay. You need to be called out. You need to self-reflect and really, again, I do think like the president of the council or the mayor should be like, I don't know, maybe stepping in and meeting with some of them. It's just,
maybe they are. Maybe
it's just,
yeah.
And I know, I just don't see that happening.
But
so
this is why, local politics matters. Like,
yeah, that's why you should be listening.
If you're a not a benevolent, but if you're a compassionate person, these are our employees. So, like,
well, yeah, they are doing work for like the community.
I don't want the people that are like responsible to like run my city to be unhappy either. So we have to figure something the fuck out. Like, just down to like person to person.
Well, and you don't have to like each other, but you don't have to make like attacks on each other. And I think when it becomes like what Juan's suggesting, that like it's just taking time away from like real work to like basically have fights within like the chambers, there's a problem. And again, I don't think it's isolated to Holyoke. So in your own town, if you have stuff going on, please let us know and we'll cover it. I think it's just being aware, like we mentioned East Hampton, being aware that this stuff does go on. And you don't have to like silently just sit there and let it continue. I guess that's the other
framing
point too,
doesn't
like,
always have to be intergovernment. It can be how the majority of the body treats out of towners, or how they treat or talk about or frame certain sides of town.
And some towns do better than others.
Absolutely,
will say that,
but when it's like a place that's small that has a pretty hegemonic, population, all the same types of people, like in places north of UMass, it's kind of like all professors, like in their little like.
Yeah, like my town in Montague, like we have like a lot more like. I don't feel afraid to talk there, but that we don't always allow out of town comment. I think at public meetings, some we do, but they definitely are more welcoming to hear what you have to say. They do push civility politics, right.
Yep.
But they're more they're way more welcoming than the Holyoke.
This is our roundabout way. So if you're listening in Holyoke, this is happening. Tell your friends, share what Juan said. We're going to share clips of it. We're finally getting our video game together. So thank you for being patient. With all that stuff, check us out on social media. we need to share this stuff. It needs to get out there. Just so people know what's going on, so they can, put pressure on these people. They can correspond with them. They can picket, whatever you deem.
Or change your vote when the times come to vote. Like Swan said, like some of these people keep getting
Right.
voted in, and this is what they're doing with
Or how-
their time and with your
or at
money.
large.
So
Maybe
like,
your counselor, like my counselor wanted, like, yeah, I disagree with him on the police sometimes. Like, and
that's fine. But he's still
I
pretty
have a
good
hard,
about like,
how I have a hard
listening.
time. But yeah, he gives me a lot of runway.
yeah, he would listen to
lot
any
of fun.
constituent, I think,
And he
if
doesn't
they
outright
contacted
disagree with
him.
me. I think he's just more of a deal maker than me.
Like he said in his statement, he's someone who is actually very pleasant and willing to work with others. So I'm not saying you're not that person. It's just I think that's the part of him that's so frustrated is he's someone that's usually can get along with and work with others. So if that's not happening with some of these people on the council, for him, that's a red
Right.
flag,
And,
I think.
what I was getting at,
He's a good guy. Like I really
I mean,
like him.
people in my position, say you get along with, your counselor and you want to be politically motivated or activated or an activist for a cause. Maybe a counselor at large or another position that, you could help organize all over the city as opposed to just in your neighborhood, or not.
Well, and also just any local involvement, if you're interested, is awesome. It's a lot of work.
Officially,
and it's
politically, actually, we should be trying to build up other systems that we can maintain without the political structure having to get.
Yeah, mutual aid projects are awesome too, and there are a ton in
But
Western Mass.
if you ever do, there's always a way you can ask questions, you can email them. Some people are just, even if they're ghouls, they like to engage. It's kind of their pastime. So they might tell you more about them, and you might learn something that maybe they're not as ghoulish as you think they are, or maybe they're more ghoulish than you ever could imagine. So it's not a bad thing to get to know these people, because at the end of the day, even if you think it's bullshit and electoralism doesn't work or whatever, it's like, well, they're still kind of like our little representatives to the feudal lords. So like, try in your way, and if that means supporting people that do that thing, that's cool too. Like, anyway, all that.
I mean, like I agree. It's for local stuff. It really is like our local community impacted by these people. So I think if you really want to make a difference, these are places and ways to have like more of an impact than you can when you maybe think of your vote in the federal general election, which I'm not saying don't vote. I'm just saying you can really see action at the local level.
So that's pretty much all we, have time for, talking about ghoulish shit, and hopefully some hope came out of this, where it's like you can just literally listen to their words, record it, and play it back for them, or reshare things like local people are posting, whether they're random people on the internet or influencers or content creators like Joanna and myself, the Weed Out. We're want to remind everybody that our Substack, we're talking about the First Amendment issues at a place like Holyoke, and how this pretty much applies to every city council. There's a lot of rumblings in places all over the Western Mass and the country that we see from other local reporters. And the reality is, it's just, basically, you just got to watch them and you got to engage somehow. Joanna, please, any final thoughts?
Completely agree. That's why we shared this, and why we covered the October 4th meeting. I do watch other town meetings, and I think the only thing I'll say about Holyoke that's a little bit more specific to Holyoke would be, and I think we've maybe mentioned it before, like in Greenfield, they still have their problems, completely have issues during the meetings. But at the beginning, there's no like forced pledge allegiance, it's optional, and they don't do like the God bless a million different ways. At least I know they only do it 3 ways in Holyoke, but they don't like put that on to people. So there are different styles in different towns. But again, just I would say if you can't make it in person or on Zoom, you can always watch a meeting later. The way we found out about this meeting was because someone we know, we do know them in person, but we met them on Twitter, kind of told us about the October 18th meeting. And so we watched it because we weren't, I think maybe you went, Spence, but I wasn't able to make that meeting. So I watched it on once it was recorded. So there's lots of ways to even just keep kind of like an eye on what's going on in your community too. And I think that's why we're sharing what we share, just kind of show people the different ways that we kind of pay attention and are able to see what's
And we want to
happening.
encourage other people to engage in this type of guerrilla journalism, guerrilla punditry. I don't know what else to call it, but it's just it's important. And I feel like this is the sneaky thing about local politics. There is nobody overseeing it in a critical, like, sort of way. And there's barely any actual journalism, let alone anybody being like, yo, this is a dog whistle. Yo, this is a classist take. Yo, this person, these three councilors in Holyoke clearly don't want to have public comment. So it's so egregious that other parts of the government are accusing them. In writing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. You're right. And like,
Reporter
and
and leaked it to him. No, they're like wrote it on official letterhead,
Right.
like, hey, you all have a problem on your side of the building.
You're right. And I think it's crazy too, because I think in the past, I think there would have been reporters maybe that like covered city council meetings, but that time is gone, really. So we're out here
One
doing that
duty you
work.
can do if you are interested in any of this, and maybe you like to write, or maybe you like to do, or maybe you're interested in any more raw journalism, like more investigative type stuff. I mean, you can just do it. And there's outlets
can.
popping up like the Weed Out. It's not just us. There's other outlets, and we can collaborate. And you know, that it's just do it. If you have that skill and you enjoy it, you know, we can all work together, because weeding out the garbage is takes time, takes a lot of eyes, takes a lot of hands, and we can do it. We can make it a better place. It doesn't always have to be negative.
No, and that's why we're not trying. Some of the counselors are amazing. Like I said, thank you to all of the counselors out there serving, like, who do really focus on the community. It's just, I think we should point out when there's stuff going on that's a little upsetting for the people who are there doing
And when
good
you're
work.
anti-racist, you have to put these racist tropes to task when they come up. So
I agree.
that's
completely.
that's what we have to do. And unfortunately, these small communities are not immune from it. This is where it happens, and this is just the reality. And we can tackle this stuff at home. It's possible. So appreciate everybody listening to us, and give us a chance on this story that may seem unrelated to your town, but maybe it applies, or maybe it reminds you of something. And as always, you know, have a good rest of your day. Check us out on our website. I'll follow our citations for that. We reference stats, etc. We like to bring receipts, and, you know, check out our Patreon, all our social media. We would love to have you and interact with you. And Joanna, do you have anything to say to the audience before we sign off for the day?
Just take care, everybody.
All right, great. Have a good rest of your whatever it is, and thank you. Bye.